In addition to being a valuable resource for federal staff, have you found the roadmap to be a valuable resource for other audiences as well?
We have definitely used the roadmap in a lot of communication. We've used it in presentations to research audiences to sort of frame the approach that we use in our partnerships with communities. We use it in partnerships with communities to sort of start out the conversation. I mean, one example is in that Muse study, the cross-site study, the very first in-person meeting we had with the partners from those 17 communities, we printed the roadmap out really big, hung it on the wall, and introduced it at the beginning of that meeting. And I think it really helped to frame for those partners, to kind of communicate to them that we understood, at least in part, maybe not fully, certainly not to the level they do, but we understood the historical context. We know about the problems that have happened in research and the distrust of research and the ways that research over the years has been harmful to tribal communities, that we were supporting the values, a certain set of values around research with tribal communities. So all those things that are included in the roadmap about respecting tribal sovereignty and indigenous methods and collaboration around decision making. And then also that it is kind of a tool to say, here are some concrete things we aspire to. So here are some of the ways we want to try to achieve that new narrative that is the vision we hold. And I think that was really important in that particular meeting to orient our partners to, what was the approach we wanted to take with them. And directly after that, we then had a session where we invited all of the partners to work together to develop the Muse conceptual framework that laid the foundation for saying we value all of these voices, we value all of the different experiences and approaches, and that's going to be really fundamental to the work we do together.
When we look at evaluation, especially with national evaluation, there's always been the action of having it from the top down and not inclusive of the populations that they're serving. So it's been more of a microscope point of view. And to study actions and behaviors and outcomes independent of other things that are impacting communities. As we look at the roadmap, it was really the effort to create a shift, a new way of thinking about community participation, and to be inclusive of many aspects that come into play into tribal communities.
And one of the things that was most important to me was not a report. Most of our tribal leaders are very visual, and they want something that just tells them plain and simple what it is they need to know. And there's been many efforts in that regard to redesign and be more sensitive to any reports that go out related to tribal programs, so it actually becomes a part of their plan of operation, so that they can look back in time and see how things have, progress. Finally, we had a document that allowed all of our different partners to be on the same page, and it was a total collaboration between a number of multiple parties. And that was very important to me because one of my biggest other concerns was the silos of different department over here, different department over there, and they weren't talking to each other. And it was very confusing. So we were able to bring a number of individuals to the table, and now it's ongoing. Now, even though I'm retired, I still see emails that tell me this is happening and that is happening. And it almost brings tears to my eyes because it really is truly remarkable that this effort is being realized. in a way that honors the language and the culture.
Tribes are saying, if it comes from our jurisdiction, then that is something we need to negotiate, or that's something that we own, or that's something that's limited to our community. That tribal sovereignty is being honored and respected. And so I think as we go forward, that there's a need to educate researchers. And I think the roadmap is a wonderful tool to help educate researchers on being accountable and thoughtful. And then communities have the right to be responsible for the information that's coming from them and the information that they want to receive. So I think it's being able to have a higher standard of being. One of the things that I want to emphasize is that the ACF established through much dialogue and much interaction the roadmap, and that there have been a lot of federal agencies that have asked for feedback in terms of community participation and have tried to implement that in some way into their federal policies. So I think as we look at ACF, they have institutionalized the roadmap, and that has made a big difference in the exchanges that we're having in tribal communities with federal agencies.